I've spent most of my life thinking that if I just worked hard enough, everything would fall into place. If I made the money, got the promotions, and had the status, things would be perfect. But now, sitting here in this office, I can't help but wonder if I've been wrong all along. I've got the job. I've got the house. I've got the salary that most people would kill for. But something's missing. It's like I've climbed to the top of this ladder I've been climbing for years, and when I finally look around, I realize I'm standing alone. Lisa and we used to be so in sync. When we first got together, we were a team. We had dreams, goals, and we were going to build this incredible life together. But somewhere along the way, I started focusing more on my career than on us. I told myself it was okay, that all this hard work would pay off, that if I could just make enough money, we'd be set for life. But now I'm starting to wonder if it was worth it. Lisa used to be my rock. I used to come home after a long day, and she'd be there, smiling, waiting to hear about my day. We'd laugh about little things, talk about the future. I used to feel like we were unstoppable. Now, it's different. She's not angry. She's just distant. And I think I know why. She doesn't say it, but I can see it in her eyes. The disappointment. The frustration. She doesn't feel heard. She doesn't feel important. And it's my fault. I keep telling myself that it's just a phase. That she's stressed or busy with her own stuff. But deep down, I know I'm lying to myself. I've been pushing her away, and I didn't even realize it. I'm so caught up in this idea that if I just keep working, keep climbing, things will get better. But now I'm starting to wonder if I'm chasing the wrong thing. Because all the success in the world won't matter if I lose her. I've got this sinking feeling that I'm running out of time. And I don't know what to do about it. I used to dream about what life would be like once I made it. When I was younger, I thought success meant having everything you ever wanted: security, freedom, the ability to take care of the people you love. I imagined Lisa and I living the life we always talked about: a nice house, vacations whenever we wanted, and no more worrying about bills or what's next. But now, I'm not so sure. I look at Lisa, and it feels like she's a world away. I've been so focused on my career, on making sure I'm always moving forward, that I've stopped noticing how far I've actually drifted from her. I used to be her priority, and now, I can't even remember the last time we had a real conversation that wasn't about the bills or my work schedule. I try to push the thought away, but deep down, I'm afraid she's pulling away for good. I see it in the way she talks to me, or more accurately, the way she doesn't talk to me. The silence in the house has become louder than any argument we've ever had. When I come home late, she doesn't even ask about my day anymore. She just nods, gives a quiet hi, and that's it. It's like we're strangers living under the same roof. And it's terrifying. I'm scared that I've already lost her. I've spent so much time building this career, telling myself that everything would be fine once I reached the next milestone. But now I'm wondering if it was all just a distraction. A way to avoid the uncomfortable reality of what's happening between us. Every time I think about it, I tell myself that things will get better. Once I close this deal, once I get this promotion, then we'll have the time to reconnect. But deep down, I know that's just another excuse. I've been using my job to avoid facing what's really going on, and then there are the suspicions. The little things I've started noticing that I can't ignore. The way Lisa's been acting lately, less affectionate, more distant. She's been spending more time on her phone, often going out without telling me where she's going. At first, I told myself it was nothing. But now, I'm not so sure. I wonder if there's someone else. I hate myself for even thinking it, but the doubt is there. I feel like I'm losing grip on everything. I thought I could handle it, but the truth is, I'm terrified. Terrified of losing her. Terrified that I've already lost her. And terrified that all the success in the world won't mean anything if I do. I can still remember the early days of our relationship like they were yesterday. Lisa and I were inseparable. We had so much fun together, just enjoying each other's company. We were a team. We talked about everything, our dreams, our plans, where we saw ourselves in 10 years. It felt like we could conquer anything together. But somewhere along the way, I got caught up in the pursuit of all these things I thought I needed. The job, the status, the paycheck. I told myself it was all for us, so we could have a better life. But I didn't see how much I was pushing her away in the process. The first time I noticed the shift was subtle. Lisa didn't complain. She didn't yell or cry. She just stopped talking. Her laughter wasn't as frequent. Her excitement about the little things seemed to fade. I kept brushing it off. I kept telling myself I'd make it up to her once things settled down at work. But things settling down never really happened. It always felt like there was one more deal to close, one more project to finish, one more deadline to meet. And each time, I chose my work over her. I started noticing the small things, things that I should have seen a long time ago. The empty chair at the dinner table, the quiet evenings when we used to have long talks. The fact that she would spend more time in other rooms, reading or watching TV, rather than coming to me. I don't even know when we stopped having those deep conversations we used to have. I guess it just happened, and then there was the silence. Silence between us became this unbearable presence. No more jokes. No more talks about our future. Just long stretches of quiet, interrupted only by the sound of me tapping away at my laptop or her flipping through channels on the TV. I told myself it was fine. I was busy. She understood. But looking back, I realized I wasn't seeing the signs. I wasn't listening. Every time she tried to bring up how she was feeling, I pushed her concerns aside. I told her everything would be okay, that we just needed to get through this busy period, and then we'd be fine. But things didn't get better. They got worse. Slowly, over time, she became more withdrawn, less affectionate, more guarded. It was like I could see her slipping away from me, and the harder I worked, the faster she seemed to move. I kept telling myself it was just a rough patch, that we'd get through it. But deep down I knew something was broken. And it wasn't just our communication, it was us. I've never been great at facing things head on. I'm more the type to bury myself in work, avoid the hard conversations. But this wasn't something I could ignore forever. I could feel the distance growing, and it was suffocating. I just didn't know how to fix it. I thought I had all the answers. I thought if I just kept pushing, kept grinding, I'd find a way to make everything work. But what I didn't realize was that I wasn't making anything work. I was just losing her. I guess I always knew that one day I'd have to face the music. I just didn't think it would come so soon. Lisa and I were having dinner, or at least, we were sitting at the table together, but it didn't feel like dinner. It felt like a tense standoff. We weren't talking much, and that was the problem. It had been days since we'd had a real conversation, and everything felt off. The silence between us was thick, like it had its own weight. I tried to lighten the mood. Asked about her day, the kind of questions I should have been asking all along. But she just looked at me for a second, and then, in that moment I saw it. The look in her eyes wasn't anger. It wasn't frustration, not at first. It was sadness. Like she was mourning something we both lost, but didn't know how to get back. I couldn't take it anymore. "Lisa," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "what's going on? Talk to me. Please." She took a deep breath, setting her fork down slowly, her eyes still on me. There was a long pause, like she was deciding whether to even answer me at all, and then she spoke. "I don't know if I can do this anymore, Matt. I don't know if I can keep pretending that everything's fine when it's not. I feel like I'm invisible to you. Like I'm just here. You're always working, always focused on the next thing, and I'm just waiting. Waiting for you to notice me. Waiting for you to care about us again." Her words hit me harder than anything I'd ever felt. She was right. I'd been so consumed with my own idea of success that I hadn't seen what was really happening right in front of me. The realization was like a punch to the gut, and I couldn't breathe for a second. I couldn't even speak. "I didn't mean for this to happen," I finally managed to say. "I didn't mean to make you feel like this. But that's the problem, isn't it? It doesn't matter if I didn't mean it. The fact was, I had made her feel this way. I had been so wrapped up in my own ambitions that I didn't stop to think about the one thing that really mattered, the one person who really mattered. Lisa stood up and walked away without saying another word. I wanted to stop her, to say something to make it better, but I couldn't find the words. I just sat there, staring at my plate, feeling like the floor had fallen out from under me. I didn't realize how much I'd taken her for granted until this moment. How much I'd neglected her needs, her feelings, her dreams. I'd been so focused on my own career, my own success, that I'd completely missed what was happening in my marriage. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything she'd said, everything I had missed. I kept replaying those words in my mind over and over, feeling like a failure. I had always believed that if I could just provide, if I could just make enough money, enough success, it would fix everything. But I couldn't have been more wrong. The truth was, success didn't mean a thing without her. Without us. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I couldn't change the past. I couldn't undo what I'd done. But maybe, just maybe, I could still do something now. I could still fight for her. Fight for us. But first, I had to admit to myself that I was the problem. That I had allowed my obsession with success to push away the most important person in my life. And that realization hurt more than anything else. The days after that conversation with Lisa were a blur. I kept replaying everything she said in my head, over and over. I couldn't shake the image of her walking away from me, leaving me sitting there, completely lost. The guilt was suffocating, but I knew I had to do something about it. I couldn't just let things slide. But where do you even begin? How do you fix something that feels so broken? I wasn't sure what to do or even where to start. The thought of losing her completely terrified me. I knew I couldn't take back the years I'd spent neglecting her, but maybe I could try to rebuild what we had. I spent the next few days in a haze. I tried to reach out to Lisa, but she was distant. She didn't snap at me, didn't get angry, but she was cold, like she was protecting herself. And I couldn't blame her. I had pushed her away for so long, I couldn't just expect everything to be okay overnight. I was the one who needed to change. I started by making small changes. I cut back on work, just a little bit at first. I didn't cancel every meeting or stop taking calls, but I made an effort to be present. I started making time for her again. I showed up for dinners. I asked her about her day. I listened when she spoke, really listened. I tried to make sure she knew I cared, that I cared. Not just about the house or the money, but about her, about us. But it wasn't easy. She didn't warm up to me immediately. I'd been absent for so long, it wasn't like she could just flip a switch and trust me again. There were nights where we didn't speak much at all, and I felt that distance between us, the barrier I had built without even realizing it. But I kept trying. I told myself that even if she didn't forgive me right away, I had to keep showing up. I couldn't give up on us. Not now. Not after everything I had taken for granted. One night, I came home earlier than usual. I wasn't expecting anything special, but as soon as I walked through the door, I saw her sitting on the couch, watching TV. She didn't look up at first, but then she did. And for a second, we just stared at each other, neither of us sure what to say. "I'm sorry, Lisa," I said quietly. "I know I've been distant. I know I've hurt you. But I'm trying. I'm trying to fix this, if you'll let me." She didn't say anything at first. She just looked at me, like she was deciding if she believed me or not. And honestly, I didn't know if she did. But then, finally, she spoke. "I don't know if things can go back to the way they were," she said softly. "But I'm willing to try. For us. If you really mean it." I could hardly believe it. She was willing to give us a chance, despite everything I'd done. It wasn't a guarantee that everything would magically work out, but it was a start. And that was all I needed. The hardest part wasn't admitting my mistakes. The hardest part was realizing that this wasn't going to be easy. There wasn't a quick fix. I couldn't just say sorry and expect everything to be fine. Rebuilding trust takes time. It takes effort. And I was ready to do whatever it took. Because for the first time in a long time, I understood something I hadn't before. Love isn't just about the big things, the salary, the house, the status. It's about the little things. It's about showing up. It's about being there. It's about the effort you put in every single day, no matter how hard it is. And for Lisa, I was ready to put in that effort. I was ready to fight for her. It's easy to romanticize change. We see it in movies, hear about it in self-help books. A person realizes their mistakes, does the right thing, and everything magically falls into place. But life doesn't work like that. Real change is messy, it's imperfect, and it's slow. I thought that after that conversation with Lisa, things would start to improve. But the truth is, it wasn't as simple as just saying I'm sorry and expecting everything to get better. Every small victory felt like a step forward, but then the setbacks came, and they hit harder than I expected. At first, things were okay. She started talking to me more again, and we even had a few laughs here and there. I'd come home early some nights, make dinner for us, and we'd sit down together. For a while, it felt like we were rediscovering each other. Like we were finding our rhythm again. But then there were those nights where she'd go quiet. Those moments where I could tell something was still off, even though she didn't say anything. The doubts crept back in, and I could feel the old tension resurfacing. I kept wondering if I was doing enough. Was I doing the right things? Was I showing her that I really cared? Or was I just fooling myself? There was this one night, not too long ago, where we had this huge fight. It wasn't even over anything major. Just a simple misunderstanding, something small. But it escalated. She said things that hurt. Things that I hadn't heard in years. Things I thought we had left behind. She accused me of being the same person I was before, of promising change but never actually following through. And for the first time in a long time, I felt completely powerless. It was like I couldn't do anything right, no matter how hard I tried. I wanted to shout back, to defend myself, but I knew better. I just sat there, listening to her, taking in everything she said. I had earned every word, every ounce of her frustration. It's funny how life can hit you with clarity when you least expect it. I had been working hard, trying to make up for all the years I had taken Lisa for granted, and I could feel things slowly shifting. But it wasn't until one evening that I finally got it, really got it. We were sitting on the porch together, just watching the sunset. For the first time in a long while, there was no pressure to fill the silence. No awkwardness. Just us. I didn't know what was going on inside her head, but I could see it in her eyes. Something had changed. It wasn't a dramatic shift, but it was there. There was a softening. A little hope. I wasn't sure if it was the right time to talk about the past. To dig into everything that had gone wrong. But as I sat there, I realized something. I didn't need to fix everything in one big swoop. I didn't need to erase the past. What I needed to do was make her believe, not with words but with actions, that I wasn't the man I used to be. And that was the moment it hit me. I had been so focused on winning her back that I hadn't truly understood what was at the heart of all of this. I hadn't really stopped to think about why she was so hurt. I thought I was doing all the right things, but I was still trying to prove myself to her. Trying to show her I was worthy of her. But what she needed, what we both needed, was to just be. She didn't need me to prove anything to her anymore. What we both needed was to reconnect in a way that wasn't about my success or my failures, but about us as a couple, as equals. That evening, I turned to her, feeling a weight in my chest. "Lisa, I don't have all the answers," I said, my voice a little shaky. "But I know I can't change the past. What I can do is promise that I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep being here, for you, for us. Not because I think it'll fix everything, but because I want to be better. And I want you to see that, even if it takes time." She didn't say anything at first. For a moment, I thought maybe I had said too much, or not enough. But then she took my hand, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she smiled. It wasn't a huge, over-the-top smile. It was small, almost shy, but it was enough. It was more than enough. I'm not sure if things will go back to how they were, she said softly, her eyes locking with mine. But I'm willing to try. And I'm glad you're here. Really here. That means more to me than anything else. And in that moment, I realized that love isn't about fixing everything, it's about showing up when it counts. It's about being honest about your mistakes, being vulnerable enough to admit where you've fallen short, and then doing the work to make things better. The past didn't disappear. Our struggles didn't magically vanish. But for the first time, I felt like we were on the same page. We had a long way to go, but I finally understood something I hadn't before. It wasn't about finding the perfect solution, it was about finding the strength to keep moving forward together, no matter what. And in that moment, I felt hopeful. Not because everything was perfect, but because we were taking it one step at a time. Together. I'd been doing all the right things, or so I thought. Trying to fix everything, show Lisa I was different. But it wasn't until one evening, sitting on the porch watching the sunset, that I finally understood what really mattered. I didn't need to prove anything to her. I needed to be there for her. Lisa, I said, my voice steady but filled with sincerity, I can't change the past, but I promise I'll keep showing up for us. Not because I think it'll fix everything, but because I want to be better, for you and for me. She didn't say much, but her hand found mine, and that simple act meant more than any grand gesture. I'm willing to try, Matt, she whispered. And in that moment, I realized that love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, being real, and working together, slowly, but surely, to rebuild what we had. Things didn't magically fix overnight, but they started to get better. We weren't perfect, but we were present. I made more time for Lisa, no distractions, just us. Slowly, the laughter came back, and the walls we built between us started to come down. Some days were still hard, but we learned to communicate. When things got tough, we talked through it. I realized it wasn't about grand gestures. It was about showing up every day, even when it felt like things weren't moving forward. We were healing, together, one step at a time. A year later, I looked at Lisa and realized something. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were thriving. The love we had built wasn't the same as before, but it was deeper, stronger. We had faced our struggles and come out stronger on the other side. It wasn't about fixing the past, but about building a future together, one where we both mattered. We had learned how to love, not out of obligation, but out of choice, choosing each other every single day. And that's when I knew, sometimes the hardest roads lead to the most meaningful destinations.